All right. Everyone is comfortably settled? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So let us begin. Om Ajnanatimmirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Tadati Swapadantikam Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vacha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone. According to the Indian astrological calculations, or the Vedic astrological calculations, the calendar that we follow has designated the present month as being very, very auspicious. This is the month of Margashirsha. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Masanam Margashirsho Aham. I am the month of Margashirsha amongst the 12 months of the zodiac calendar. So, 5,000 years ago, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he spoke the transcendental knowledge of the existence of the soul and the connection that the soul has to the super soul. So 5,000 years ago, society was arranged a little differently than 2022. In fact, the arrangement of society was almost the same till about a century ago. And then came in a couple of wars in the last century. And the format according to which communities lived changed. Suddenly people found that they could make economic progress even when the sun is down, even after sunset. The wars, especially the war in the middle of the last century, made people find that potential. So, prior to that, there was a discovery of electricity, the invention of the bulbs. But after that, Industrial Revolution really found momentum in most of the parts of the world. Things changed. In the present context, it really doesn't matter what month you're living in. because the supply chain works throughout. Isn't it? So the world is really connected globally in the sense of our needs. But, as I said, up to the last century and previous to that, the month of Margashirsha is very, very important for developing economies, the first world countries of then. Because developed countries in those days were basically, they were an agrarian society. So to have grains, you have to cultivate your land. Everyone had to do that. And the economy was local. Therefore, the month of Margashirsha, which is also the month post-harvest, is when everyone has time. And there was no PUBGs or... So vacation would mean visiting holy places. Vacation would mean focusing on the understanding of one's existence in life. Because the other months would just take out your energy trying to maintain the body. Isn't it? Now, from one point of view, at least they had vacation time where they could practice their spiritual life. Today's times, we are in a catch-22 situation. There's practically no vacations, practically speaking, and whatever vacation is there, well, the bee console takes up your time. Isn't it? So in those days, people found the balance between their spiritual practices and their daily needs on the basis of the Panchanga, the Vedic calendar. In today's time, especially in the ISKCON communities, our calendars are weekly calendars, every Sunday. Isn't it? Somebody came up with a nice, catchy duplet, I guess, phrase. It's in Hindi. You can understand a little bit of Hindi? Yes. Everyone? Yeah. So there used to be, in India, in the previous century, when people were being exposed to a lifestyle beyond being vegetarian, because being vegetarian means, or it meant that you missed out on all of your proteins. So there was this wide-scale propaganda on the local television. This was a time when television just had one channel. Can you imagine? Just one channel. So there was this propaganda. Sunday ho ya Monday, something like that. See, everyone who's above 40 or 35, they can. Yeah, so we don't complete the duplet in such, isn't it, gatherings. We don't do that. So people, they are very quirky, and somebody came up with this duplet. Sunday to Sunday, जाना है ISKCON टेम्पल, नहीं तो खाओगे यमराज के talk of narratives. So Sunday. So that is typically, once you become a regular participant of an ISKCON community, isn't that how your life functions? It's as if actually Sunday is, just as in the solar system everything revolves around the sun. So Sunday, everything revolves around Sunday. Right? People may not miss you on other days of the week, but on Sunday, if you are not there, oh, last Sunday we did not see you. You get noticed by your absence. So you see how life is, the lifestyle is functional in today's times. Hence the month of Margashirsha. For us, Sunday is a time where we go to the temple, especially for ISKCON communities in the West. That is where you notice the deities. If you're a little more observant, then you'd want to know, oh, who did the shringar today, the dressing, isn't it? So every Sunday, after some time, you stop caring who did. It's like we already know. So it's no longer a novelty. Why am I speaking about this is because in the month of Margashirsha, especially the tract of land which is to the south of the central mountain range in India, the Vindhyas, the month of Margashirsha is one of the holiest of all months. Especially if you go way south. And this is where the Tirupavai is sung every single day. It is dedicated to the Supreme Goddess who is glorifying her Lord. Andal. Yes, every single day. In fact, it's for 40 days actually. The month of Margashirsha. So maybe Krishna is a little South Indian, I guess. Because he says, Masanam Margashirsham. I wish he would have said Masanam Kartikoam. But then there's glorification of Kartik too, isn't it? Jokes apart. Margashirsha. So she is the supreme goddess worshipped very diligently by all the devotees who worship Lord Narayan, especially Lord Krishna. And especially in those days, till we became a global community, prior to that, young girls were very much encouraged to sing it every single day. Young unmarried girls. Why? Because then you'd have a husband who's as good as Lord Narayan. Where we follow the weekly calendar, it no longer seems relevant anymore, isn't it? So how would a festival like Odhan Shashti be relevant? Odhan Shashti is a particular festival where for the first time, it is very symbolic, the festival. Most of the festivals are symbolic. Through that symbolism, it expresses the devotional sentiments of an entire community towards the deity that they worship. So right from most of South India, including Odisha. Now typically Odisha is East India, but we include it in South India. In North India, it's not as much. But South India, definitely. Even in North India, they celebrate this festival. Odhan means you take on a covering. Shashti is the 6th day. So the 6th day of the waxing moon which is called as Shukla Ashtami of the month of Margashirsha, is the day where the entire community of devotees, they come to see their worshipable Lord being offered warm clothes. Warm clothes. All over. The reason being, the rains have just kind of stopped, but they may not have, depends upon how the peninsular cyclones are functional in India. So it's still wet, it's cold. So everyone needs to have a warm covering. Therefore Krishna also needs it. So they offer warm clothes. Now, or an extra layer of clothing to keep the deity warm. And like you have an extra layer of clothing, you take on a shawl or a jacket or a warm coat. And at night, you may take on a blanket when you go off to sleep. So that is what the lordships are offered. Post Odhan Shashti. Shashti is sixth day. Alright? Shashti means sixth. Saptami means seventh. Ashtami means eighth. So there are some Ashtamis that are very popular, right? Which ones? Janmashtami, Radhashtami, yes. Then there is Navami. Navami means ninth. Which Navami is popular? Rama Navami. Yes. So you see, that is the understanding. Odhan Shashti. Wool, by its chemical constitution, is least contaminated amongst all fibers, wool and silk. The reason being, because of its chemical constitution, there's a lot of static electricity generated with silk and wool too. Now we are not speaking of synthetic products as of yet. So you see, static electricity is not something that any living entity likes. You try to do with your woolen clothes like that and you're like, don't do that. So you see why wool and why silk are considered to be pure always. There's no need to wash it. Because there are no organic contaminants or very less organic contaminants. Every other fabric should be washed regularly. Yes? Wool and silk, because of this very nature also, does not absorb so much of body odor. It's just chemistry, I guess. Hence, it is not as contaminating. Why I'm trying to speak of all of this is that maybe we have accepted certain traditional practices. Today we can relate it with certain aspects of science. Science basically means I only believe what I know, what I can understand. So this is how we understand. So in Jagannath Puri, where the Supreme Lord, Sri Jagannath Dev, resides, is living with his siblings, Baladev and Subhadra. And he has his close confidant, Sudarshan. So these four personalities live in Sri Jagannath Puri Dham. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's very much worshipped by so many Gaudiya Vaishnavas, in fact all of them, being non-different from Krishna, when he descended in this universe, for about half of his manifest existence here, half of it, he spent in Jagannath Puri. 6 years he travelled. Other than that, 24 years he spent in Jagannath Puri. So devotees would come to visit him from Bengal. Not many devotees from other parts would come, but devotees from Bengal would definitely come to visit him. They would travel to Jagannath Puri. So if they would come during the time of Odhan Shashti, they would see the festival along with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord would be offered garlands, new bracelets, armlets, a fresh set of warm clothes. There would be nice arati offered to the Lord, the ghee lamp. And this function would continue on, the decoration and the offering of ghee lamps, for almost a month. So it was a festival season. Every day they would come and have darshan. They would come and see Lord Jagannath, and they would see the wonderful way the Lord is being the Lord or their lordships. All of them are being decorated. This would go on till Makar Sankranti, which is about the 8th day of the waning moon of the month of Push. It's almost like 40-50 days apart. Makar Sankranti. Or Makar Sankranti. The month of January. Somewhere in the middle of the month of January. So Odhan Shashti happened recently. Today is almost, I guess, Navami. Tomorrow should be Dashmi, and day after is Mokshada Ekadashi. It is Margashirsha Shukla Ekadashi. The day that we worship as the advent of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the knowledge of transcendence given by Sri Krishna 5,000 years ago. Not the book. Alright, not the book. Because very soon the book is going to disappear and we are going to have e-books. And then there will be a problem, because now what are we supposed to worship? So we'll bring out a copy of our grandfather's Bhagavad Gita. And that, because no longer it could be available in print form. It's quite possible. And even if it is available in print form, people would just keep it there for the month of Margshirsh to worship it, because it has to be preserved. Everything is digital now. So what do we worship? We worship the advent of this transcendental knowledge that was given by Sri Krishna to Arjuna 5,000 years ago. Please remember that. Alright? So if someplace someone does not have the physical copy, don't worry. You can still worship the transcendental form of this knowledge. Yes? However, if the book is there, it's helpful for most of us. We know that this is where we have to focus. We don't have to focus into space. Yeah? So Mokshada Ekadashi. So this period, this fortnight, is a fortnight where on the 6th day we have Odhan Shashti. So when could have Odhan Shashti been there? If today is, I think, Navami.
Monday.
It was this Monday, right? Did we give warm clothes to anyone? We did not feel the need. It doesn't seem relevant anymore. Hence I said about 5,000 years ago, because the lifestyle was a little different. Yeah. So now we come to those days when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was living in Sri Jagannath Puri. So can you imagine how excited they were, because it was really turning cold and the Lord's ships were going to be offered new cloth. So this particular year, a very great personality of the name of Pundarika Vidyanidhi. What was the name? Pundarika Vidyanidhi. Alright? He had come from Bengal to Sri Jagannath Puri. Now he was very much revered because he was very knowledgeable, he was very sincere in his practices, he was quite wealthy too, and he was considered to be a teacher, a spiritual master. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So he was a spiritual master of Gadadhar Pandit. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would call him Bab, father. So he was very dear to everyone. Pundarik Vidyanidhi was an elderly gentleman. So he had been there for quite some time before the birth of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Gadadhar. He used to live in Bengal. In a place known as Chattagram. What is it called as today? Chittagong. East Bengal. However, he was a wealthy person. So he had his second home. You know second homes? He had his vacation home in Navadvip. Navadvip was a township of very, very learned people. One of them was a person of the name Swarup. These two were very good friends. Now Swarup, he stayed unmarried. He went to Varanasi, another center of learning. So Navadvip was like, these were like the Ivy League townships. Navadvip, Varanasi. So he went to Varanasi. He got his education from there, and then he decided to dedicate his life to the ashram of sannyas. He had also heard that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had taken sannyas. So he took on the name Swarup Damodar. Alright? Swarup Damodar was also an elderly gentleman. And the two were friends. Who? Pundarik Vidyanidhi and Swarup Damodar. When Swarup Damodar heard that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had gone to Jagannath Puri, he said, alright, I'm taking a transfer. So he applied for that position in Jagannath Puri. He took on a new job. As a sannyasi, he changed his team. Now he was a team lead in Jagannath Puri. Previously he was in Navadvip. And what was the team working on? Self-development. Very mindful people, all of them are, isn't it? Mindful society. So the two friends met again when Pundarik Vidyanidhi visited Jagannath Puri. So Sarup Damodar Goswami, he said, let me take you to the temple. He said, yeah, let us go. There's a special festival. He said, I know, it is Odhan Shashti. Learned people, right? So he knew it's Odhan Shashti. So he was very eager to see the Lord being offered new clothes. So when he goes there, in Jagannath Puri, because Puri practically is kind of always warm. Jagannath Puri is typically warm throughout the year. But it gets slightly cold. Like if the temperatures are always like 80s in Jagannath Puri, then during the month of December it would be maybe in the lower 70s. That is cold. So they were offering warm cloth. However, it wasn't as cold that they would offer a blanket or clothes made of wool. So they just offered an extra layer of clothing. Sarup Damodar was so happy. Pundarik Vidyanidhi was so pleased seeing the lords being served nicely. And then Pundarik Vidyanidhi became concerned. However, they knew that the etiquette is that within the temple you stay quiet so that everyone can focus on the Lord. So he kept quiet. After the morning function, the ritual was done, they moved out of the temple. However, something was there on the mind of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. It was going on in his mind. So he was very quiet. Sarup Damodar Goswami understood that my friend here is working on some new theory. As I said, learned people, scientific brains. They want to know the what of what, everything. How, why, what. So after some time, Sarup Damodar Goswami asked him, all right, blurt it out. What is it? You've been silent for so long. And Pundarik Vidyanidhi was like, yes, how can they offer starched cloth to the Lord? Now starch, when added to fabric, makes that fabric look very attractive on a mannequin. However, if a human wears it, it is a little cumbersome. Because starch is stiff. So if you are very, like in the previous century, if you had to be very stiff in your behavior, then they would say stiff like an English gentleman. But then it's very uncomfortable too. They are not starch cloth is not, they are not working clothes. You cannot work in them. You can just be presentable for a photo shoot. That's it. So Pundarik Vidyanidhi was very concerned. Why? Why are they offering starch cloth to Jagannath? Jagannath and Baladev, they are like cowherd boys. If they go about playing, and Subhadra, she's just a little young girl. Why starched cloth? So according to the considerations about the comfort of the deities, you are not supposed to offer starched cloth to the deity. So whenever you purchase, previously in today's times, I don't think so it is relevant anymore, because you have different kinds of, fabric in today's times. But previously, the cloth in the stores had to look very presentable, so they would all be starched. So you have to bring the clothes, you buy them, and then you have to give them at least one wash, if not more, before putting it on. So every festival, it was considered very, let us say, mandatory that you should have new cloth. But at the same time, you could not wear it as it is. You have to wash it at least once. If you did not wash it, then people are like, it is inauspicious. And then you ask them why, and they're like, don't ask questions. So later on, you understand chemistry, you understand biology, and then you kind of relate things. So the deities should not be offered starched cloth. Why are they offering starched cloth to the deities? Swarup Damodar Goswami said, Lord Jagannath here likes the way the devotees serve him. So just forget it. Don't worry. No. I can understand that Lord Jagannath is happy receiving the love and affection of the devotees. However, the devotees, they should consider this point. And Swarup Damodar Goswami is, you've just come here this year. Jagannath has been here since thousands of years. Every year they offer him the new starched cloth. If Lord Jagannath is happy about it, then you need not be so concerned. Pundarik Vidyanidhi is like, I understand what you're saying. However, the country where I come from, the land where I come from, Bengal, there we offer washed cloth to the Lord. Sometimes when you grow up in a particular tradition, it is so difficult to accept another tradition, especially if it is clashing with your traditions. You're like, all right, if people tell me, I'll do it, but then you have sleepless nights about it. Pundarik Vidyanidhi was having a sleepless night that evening. He was tossing and turning, and in his subconscious mind, this debate was going on. Why are they doing it? Why should they offer the cloth which is not washed to the Lord? How can you offer starched cloth? So physically, he's in bed, he's in sleep, but subconsciously, he's just tossing and turning. And seeing him in such an uncomfortable situation, the Lord decides to relieve his stress. So Jagannath and Baladev, they appear in a dream to him. And Baladev asks him, what is your problem? My dear Lord, I saw them doing this. And Krishna is like, we both like it. Like, but it must be so uncomfortable for you. I think tomorrow I'm going to tell them that they should change their procedure. Now, Pundarik Vidyanidhi was very respectable gentleman. He had a lot of followers on social media, even in Jagannath Puri. However, changing age-old practices without substantial reason may sometimes not be acceptable even to the Lord. So Krishna and Baladev, they told him, no, we are happy. Pundarik Vidyanidhi is like, my dear Lord, you are so humble. You are so compliant. However, Balaram, he said, Krishna is not going to listen like this. So Balaram gave him a slap. on his left cheek. It was a gentle slap, like, hey, wake up. However, Balaram, his slap, even a gentle one, sometimes can be very profound. So for Pundarik Vidyanidhi, it was profound. Boom! However, how can they offer? So Balaram said, it's not working. I'm not able to do much. Krishna, now you have to intervene. So Krishna gives him a slap on his left cheek. Boom. Gentle enough, but then Krishna, he is the brother of Balaram. So Pundarik Vidyanidhi gets a few slaps. And he's tossing and turning. And then Krishna and Balaram, they gently warn him. Now, if warnings can be gentle, so they gently warn him. Don't you dare change the rituals that the devotees here are using to serve us. We are happy. And then Balaramji started laughing. Do you understand? And Balaram's laugh ended his misery. He woke up and was like, oh my God. It was daybreak. I slept long. I missed Mangal Aarti. They're going to ask the temple. We noticed that you were not there. Especially Pundarik Vidyanidhi had come on a yatra. So Sarva Damodar asked him, I noticed that you were not there, but he had a shawl all around his face, like covered up. And he was like, So Pundarik Vidyanidhi says, what's this with all the shawl? This is Jagannath Puri. It's like it's high 70s, come on. He says, remove the shawl. He's like, no. What's with the shawl? No. So now friends, you know what friends do? Pulled at the shawl. Pundarik Vidyanidhi came along with the shawl. He says, not you go back. Shawl. So it's traction and retraction. Physics worked. The shawl came off his face, and then he saw that his cheeks were swollen. What happened? He said, I had to tell you. But first of all, turn off your phone. I don't want this to be on social media. Well, Pundarik Vidyanidhi, he tried his best, but it's all over social media now. Since generations we have been hearing this. What happened? He said, well, yesterday I had two gentlemen visit me. And Sarup Damodar is, tell me about it. So he narrated everything to Sarup Damodar Goswami. And Sarup Damodar Goswami is like, I told you. However, you are so fortunate that Krishna and Balaram, they came to reveal the mechanisms or the machinations of how they deal with their devotees. So now are you satisfied? He said, yes, I am satisfied. Let this ritual continue. I am satisfied with this. Let it be as it is in Jagannath Puri. In Bengal, we'll still follow our ritual, our traditional practices. In Jagannath Puri, let them follow their traditional practices. Now, sometimes devotees, they also start kind of doing the same. Odana Shashti, let us offer starch cloth. Please understand, Lord Jagannath is used to accepting the starch cloth along with 200 other festivals too. There are almost about 200 plus festivals in Jagannath Puri, almost every single day. So if you want to offer starch cloth, also be ready to subscribe to the other festivals too. Otherwise, just offer a nice prasad bhoga to the Lord. Eat it as prasad and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This incident is very revealing. First of all, it is all right if you do not know about particular customs, even if one has been practicing Krishna consciousness for a long, long time. The Supreme Lord has not standardized procedures all over. The Supreme Lord is not the CEO of Amazon. The Supreme Lord is very much Indian. So there are standard procedures, and then there are those procedures that the Lord Himself accepts beyond those standard procedures. So it is perfectly all right not to know. So if we are not aware of certain procedures, as long as you have sufficient on your plate, be happy. And if somebody else knows a procedure, you want to adopt it because then you feel that you can be more complete in your practices. Well, if you have some space on your plate, the plate of life, your schedule, perfectly all right. However, if you don't have, it's all right. There's no need to subscribe to newer and newer practices, thinking that, oh, this is wholesome. I'm becoming more and more wholesome. Is that a stress reliever? Isn't it? So if, for example, some of you may be chanting 4 rounds, some may be chanting 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, I'm not sure, because I'm not sure of the audience, but I'm just saying. So if you hear somebody is chanting 6 rounds, don't be stressed out. Similarly, if you hear that somebody is chanting 18 rounds, don't be stressed out. If you want to do 18 rounds, do it stress-free. If you want to do 6 rounds, do it stress-free. It's perfectly all right not to be aware of certain practices. And if you don't subscribe to those practices, doesn't mean that you are missing out on some action. In trying to adopt newer practices, you should not become MIA, missing in action. Yeah? So perfectly all right. Secondly, knowledge is always beneficial. So keep your minds and your hearts and wherever you think your knowledge rests, your ears, keep that open. Always. And one of the ways to increase one's knowledge base is being open to explore. No need that you don't have to go to uncharted waters. But you could always go into charted waters that you have not visited. Pundarik Vidyanidhi must have come to Jagannath Puri previously, maybe not. He started coming to Jagannath Puri because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went there. I'm not trying to deduce anything here from whatever we've understood. But what definitely we can try and learn from this description is that having knowledge is helpful. Why? Because it helps us relieve certain misunderstandings that we could cultivate in our lives, or it could help us be stress-free. Alright? Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna, he advises Arjuna, Shanashanair uparamet buddhya dhriti grihitaya atmasamstham manah kritva nakinchedapi chintayet. Na chintayet? stress-free. Krishna is advising Arjuna to follow certain principles by which one can be stress-free. And he says, to be stress-free, one must use one's intelligence. Shana shanayar uparamed buddhya dhriti grihitaya. Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence sustained by full conviction. Grihitaya. Grihitaya means absorbing something within your existence. Moment by moment, step by step. Every moment one must have made some advancement in how we stay focused, which means we'll have to use our intelligence. How many of us here chant regularly the holy names of the Lord? Show of hands. Like when I say regularly, I mean almost every day. Yeah. Please use your intelligence. Don't lend it to someone else during that time. Because when we use our intelligence, then every name that we chant helps us make gradual progress. And if we don't use our intelligence, then we're right there. And we are still wondering, it's been so many years. How do I focus on my chanting? And the answer is, chant the holy names of the Lord. But that is what I have been doing. So the answer is in the Bhagavad Gita itself. Shanay shanay uparamed, progress. Moment by moment, there has to be gradual progress. Buddhya, dhriti, again intelligence. Grihitaya. You have to use your intelligence such that you can absorb and make advancement. Or you can absorb knowledge and bring about a change in your approach to your practices. What kind of change? A good change. And thus, the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. Na chintayet. Should think of nothing else. Stress-free. Alright? So we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions, any comments?
One question to Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So you said Krishna, Jagannath, actually, chastised Puндарик-Виданидhi.
Okay.
Puндарик-Vidhanidhi is the Vishwan Maharaj, like this, Radharani's father in the Krishna Lila.
Okay.
So, senior in terms of in Krishna Lila, right? From Krishna. I know Krishna is Supreme Personality Godhead, so why he needs to teach him a lesson or something like that?
Oh, you are saying that Jagannath being Krishna. Why should do that? Then where is the fun if we are going to equate Jagannath is equal to Krishna, is equal to Ram, is equal to Narsingadev, then where is the fun? All of them have their own characteristics. So Krishna as Jagannath has his own way of interacting with his devotees or with his associates. Alright? So it's a little different.
So, Prabhu, we are going through Gita Jayanti, so anybody...
Oh, by the way, another point to note is that as a Vrishabhanu Maharaj, he is kind of the could have been father-in-law of Krishna. As Puндарик-Vidhanidhi, He's just a guru of his friend. And he's like the adopted father, or maybe Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the adopted son. But since Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that he is like my father, so it is adopted father of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Alright? So, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu worships Jagannath as a Supreme Lord. Pundarik Vidyanidhi also worships Jagannath as a Supreme Lord. So Supreme Lord is interacting with the devotee.
Yeah.
So that point has to be taken into consideration too.
Just like what happened to Ramanujacharya, like he also did similar, like say, you guys are not following the procedure. So next day, we've been seeing he is in a different city after the steps, like some pastimes of Ramanujacharya. Like he came to Jagannath Puri and he told the Pujaris, you are not following the procedure. So next day he was in a different place. I heard that, I remember. Alarnath temple came there.
Lord Jagannath said that, well, it's been a long time since Kurmadev is not being worshipped properly. So you are more needed there. So he sent him to Kurma Kshetra. Free ride. That's the way we look at it. He said, Jagannath, see, in Jagannath Puri, I have so many people here serving me, but people have forgotten Kurmadev. And you need to go and establish certain procedures there. So Chaitanya, Lord Jagannath, he arranged for Garuda Airlines or something like that. And gave him an overnight ride, red-eye flight to Kurma Kshetra. Alright? Yeah.
So I was just telling that we have few new devotees here. So I like, if anybody does not have Bhagavad Gita as it is, so just I want to give a gift. I have Bhagavad Gita. So,
Oh, that's wonderful.
yeah, so you can give it to them. So anybody does not have Bhagavad Gita here, like you have Bhagavad Gita.
Freebies. There are freebies being offered. Any other question or comment? Alright, so we'll stop.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for such wonderful class. Thank you so much. I have a question. The deity ceremonies and sadhu sangha, are they meant to enhance the quality of our chanting, or do they have any other role?
Well, the principles that you're stating are 2 of the 5 principles. Of the remaining 3, 1 is chanting. So maybe chanting is also meant to enhance our chanting. These principles are meant to help us be very productive in our sadhana. So if the sadhana is chanting, then yeah, that is how we can look at it. The 5 principles. In the Gaudiya Vaishnava lineage, these 5 principles of the 64, these 5 have been given have been stated to be important by Rupa Goswami. So we accept Rupa Goswami's directions. So chanting also one of those principles, one of those 5. Chanting the holy names of the Lord. Worshipping the deity, form of the Lord. Is that all right? Any other question? Yes.
What is the difference between spiritual and material growth?
What is the difference between spiritual and material world? This. When I have my eyes open, I see. When I have my eyes closed, I'm not able to see because I am used to understanding with my eyes open. So spiritual life is where your eyes are open. Material life is where the eyes are closed.
Spiritual world,
That is spiritual world. Spiritual world is a world where your eyes of knowledge are closed. Eyes of knowledge are open. Material world is where the eyes of knowledge are closed.
Okay.
So when you have the vision of knowledge, then that is a spiritual world. It's like a glass plate with a drop of liquid. It's the same to the naked eyes. The same thing is being observed by the naked eyes, and the same thing is being observed by the microscope. Again, it's the eyes that observe it through the microscope. So what is the difference between the two? The difference is in perception. The naked eyes are not able to perceive the microscopic world or the microscopic existence of that drop of liquid. The microscope is helpful to do that. So instead of these eyes, if we had microscopic lens, instead of the regular lens, then we would have been able to see that. So the spiritual world is the world that you see with the vision of transcendental knowledge. The material world is a world that you see without the vision of transcendental knowledge. So what is transcendental knowledge? Transcendental knowledge is that I am happy serving the Supreme Lord, the Lord's creation. So when we have that vision, that is a spiritual world. And when the vision is that I can be happy separate, or by rejecting the concept of I'll find happiness serving the Lord and His creation, when we reject that and we just want to be happy serving ourselves independently, that is not transcendental knowledge. That is lack of transcendental knowledge. So the lack of transcendental knowledge is called as illusion.
Does illusion exist in spiritual world?
Why would illusion exist in the spiritual world? Illusion doesn't exist at all. It only exists within the conception of somebody who is not having proper vision.
So Janma Jara Vyadhi Mrityu is actually associated with material world, right?
Janma, Jara, Vyadhi and Mrityu are associated with the material world. They are associated with the vision or with the knowledge that I can enjoy separately and independently.
Okay, that vision, I mean, if we have illusion, then that thought will come.
Yeah,
So in spiritual world, we don't have that illusion.
we shouldn't have that illusion. As soon as we have that illusion, then we find the material. It's like, as I said, as soon as I shut the eyes, then I am not able to see. The world still exists, but I am able to see only darkness, or whatever I create within that darkness.
Okay. Why I am asking all these things is actually I found something. Fallback theory is there, right? In ISKCON. We have this fallback theory.
You mean fall down?
Yeah.
Fall down theory?
Fall from Goloka, again we come to this. I mean, everyone will say like this, right? Here.
Okay.
And material world is nothing but this Janma Chakra, Punarjanma, Janma. We actually, circling till we actually surrender to Krishna, and again we get delivered to spiritual world. And Krishna promised many times in Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures as well, we will never return. He said many times like that.
You could say a couple of times, maybe. I'm not exactly the figure, but
6 to 7 times.
yeah, so many times you say, like less than 10.
Yes.
There are other things that he had to also talk to Arjuna, right? So yeah, it is a little repetitive, yes.
So here we have Maya. So we have all these Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. Because of all these things, and we fall into trap of this Maya, and we will be encircling this Janma Chakra. Right?
Okay.
When we get knowledge through bhakti or some other way, we get enlightened and we can observe the Sachidananda Parabrahma. There is nothing but Krishna. Okay? When we surrender him and we completely dedicate to him, and Antyakale.
Is everyone able to hear?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, otherwise you could speak a little louder. I'm able to hear, so that everyone can listen to your question. Yeah, please continue.
Even Krishna says, at the end, if you chant my name, or if you think of me, you will never return. I mean, you will come to my world, eternity will be there, like that. And all this sadhana we are actually doing just to get out of this material world. Right?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand what is your question.
Yeah, question is like, I mean, this fallback, this what? I mean, for that, many acharyas, I have discussed with many Prabhuji's in ISKCON for long 12 years, more than 12 years. Everyone say like, even I have seen Srila Prabhupada's illustration one thing, where he says, Krishna has promised. It doesn't mean if you are not fulfilling that, if you are doing something else, or if you want to become like, think like Krishna, you want to enjoy like Krishna, then he can break his promise. It has happened for Bhishma. He promises, right? He owes like, I will not touch any weapon in the war. And also, this Jaya Vijaya.
So what is the question?
I mean, if this fallback theory is correct, means, all these millions, innumerable, all these living beings, we fall back from the Vaikuntha means, or Goloka, we fall back means, what is the point? Where exactly this? Krishna has failed all his promises, or are we? See, we all came from Krishna, right?
Okay, so from what I understand, the gist of it is that the living entities here, if we say right now, the material world, for us we take the material world to be different from the spiritual world. For the sake of discussion. Material world is different from the spiritual world. For the sake of discussion, we are considering that. Therefore, those who are in the material world are in illusion. Spiritual world, they are not in illusion. Now here in the material world, Krishna has come and he has spoken to Arjuna, and we have that knowledge in the form of Bhagavad Gita, where he says a couple of times, 5 to 7 times, he says that once you have come to me, you'll never again come back to the material world. You'll be free from the cycle of birth and death.
Yes.
That's a gist, right?
Yes.
So the question is Krishna breaking his promise? And if Krishna has promised, then what is the guarantee that we will not again come back to the material world?
Then there is no difference between material world and spiritual world. If we are again falling back from spiritual world means.
No, I said for the sake of discussion, we are considering that to be two different worlds.
And there is nothing like eternity or anything. We will be like doing all this Janma Chakra and all these things. And what Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita differs, if that is true.
So the question is Krishna not keeping his promise, or is Krishna putting us into... I understand you believe in Krishna. I'm trying to understand what the question is.
My question is, I believe in Krishna completely. So that's why I believe in Krishna, whatever Krishna said. I will never fall back.
Okay.
From the spiritual world. If I get Krishna's mercy, if I go to Goloka, I will not fall back.
Right.
Okay, because Krishna has promised.
Okay.
But here, here I observed like some. That's the only, main doubt I have.
So what is the doubt? You believe in Krishna, so what is the doubt?
Doubt is nothing but some Prabhuji, some saying, if you go to Goloka, again, if you think like if you think like you are the enjoyer, and you will again fall back. That's like that people are saying.
And where is the praman for that?
That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm asking.
No, you are asking me. I did not say that.
Because I think his question is that how did we fall from there to here?
Yes.
Then after going there we became.
No, I don't think that is his question. His question is that if I go back, then I will again
Will I go or not?
be into illusion. His question is that. So I'm not saying that is right or wrong. I want to see what is the praman for that.
Correct. I have asked the same thing. I have even asked
No,
you.
but why would that statement be made? That if I do that?
Where did you read that? That's one question. If you read somewhere listen, we can tell you.
The example of Jai Vijaya.
Yeah, people are actually.
No, Jai Vijay, that is the consideration where they came to the material world for certain purposes, whatever it was there, and then they got liberated.
That is true. And
There's no second comeback
whenever Krishna
for them.
wants to come, right? All his parshas, they also come. I mean, he's like nothing. They are not different from other things. Jaya Vijay is part of Krishna, like Shankh Chakra. When Krishna comes,
So we are also part of Krishna only.
correct.
Alright? So everyone is part of Krishna. That apart.
Yeah.
Alright?
But
There's no distinction between us as being part of Krishna and Jai Vijay being part of Krishna or the other Parshads being an expansion of Krishna.
we are very minute.
Jai Vijay are also minute.
Correct. But they are.
The difference is that they have certain aspects that we may not have. That is it. Everything is expansion of Krishna. And certain energies of his is Sandhini. There are various energies of his, of Krishna's. Some of them are called as Prakash, some of them are called as Vilas. Various ways that philosophy has been explained. So even the living entity is actually part and parcel of Krishna. Even we are. Alright? Why do we make a distinction between ourselves and the Parshads? We, because of our constitutional existence, we can choose to reject Krishna. Choose to reject the connection that we have with the Supreme Lord. Jan Vijay never choose to do that. Therefore, Krishna has to make arrangement for them to be here. He did not make an arrangement for us to be here. Does it make sense? So that is why they are called as Parshads. I'm not sure about Shankh and Chakra being Jai and Vijay. I'm not sure of that.
No. What I'm trying to say is, like Jaya Vijaya, Shankh Chakra also descends to earth, right? Whenever Krishna,
All the Ayudhas can come.
Yeah.
There's no issue with that.
Yeah.
There's
They
no
are also like
they-
personalities.
Yeah, they have permanent visas. If whenever they want, they can
Sudarshan
visit.
is a
Yeah.
personality.
We come on, like immigrant visa here. Therefore, to go back, we need to re-qualify.
Yeah. So this actually. I mean,
They come on diplomatic visa. Sorry, they come on diplomatic visa. Jain Vijay, the other Parshadas, the Ayudhas, they come on diplomatic visa. So the rules of this world does not really apply to them. Alright? So when Krishna makes a statement that once you've decided to resurrect yourself. Once the living entity says that, yes, Krishna, again I want to just take the choice of wanting to serve you eternally, always, and be happy, because that is where happiness is. And one does not come back to illusion again. That is why Krishna says, Yad gatvana nivartante tad dhama mam apetya tu kvantaya punarjanma na vidyate. So many ways, yeah, he says that. So I don't think so there is a contradiction. I'm wondering in what context you've heard people. The context, if it is to help us understand what is free will, then that makes sense. Because free will is never taken away by Krishna. So having gone back from illusion to enlightenment, we use our free will never to come back to illusion too. Understand this point? However, the understanding of free will is that the choice is always there. So why would somebody who has resurrected themselves into enlightenment again make the wrong choice again. Why would a person who's in knowledge make the wrong choice again? Doesn't make sense. It isn't logical.
That's what I mean. Here, I mean, I have observed many people are saying, even, I mean, Srila Prabhupada, in one video, Prabhupada actually, he mentioned like Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he promises, I mean, there will be no fallback. But, I mean, I'm just saying
just paraphrasing.
Yeah. Okay. But if you take that as a granted, and if you think like, I mean, if you act like Krishna, then he will again send back. It doesn't mean he has to keep.
See, we are paraphrasing it. Right now it is a clip. Again, what is the context in which Prabhupada is stating that? If Prabhupada is making a statement telling us that if we are not careful here, then we can again, lose that understanding of devotional service. Here that is possible. Like for example, somebody, then a knowledgeable person never makes a wrong choice. Krishna is trusting knowledge here because he knows knowledge is his energy. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha labhyate. Krishna says transcendental knowledge can never ever fail. So Krishna is also making that statement.
I understood Srila Prabhupada's whatever he said, right? But
so he is making that in this context. That is what I am assuming.
Yeah. So people has taken that as a separate context, and they are trying to validate that fallback theory, and they are saying like, again there is a possibility you can fall back from Goloka. If you think you act like Krishna, and if you think you are like enjoyer in Goloka, instead of serving in Krishna, then again that time I again asked, why do we think like, and there is no Maya, there is nothing like, there is a Yoga Maya, Krishna is there, is always there. But why do we think like that? Because here Maya is there because of all these other because of all these things we are actually entrapping into this all this thing. But there, why there is a necessity? We don't have that.
Maybe we can clarify with them. Are they speaking about Bhu Vaikuntha or the original Vaikuntha? There is a Bhu Vaikuntha also. So if there is Bhu Vaikuntha, there can be Bhu Goloka also. No? It is known as Gokul.
No, they are mainly speaking about the spiritual.
So we can clarify with them. Alright? There must be other people also who have said that no. If Krishna says we can go back to this, when we go back we'll never return, they must be accepting that also.
When I try to ask these questions, right, even they sometimes they started to blame me or curse me or something like that, or you are actually speaking against us, it's not happening. Like I have seen many. So I stopped asking this main question. That's the reason. First time I saw from, you have given whatever, I thought, right, same, yeah.
What I am trying to present is what I have understood as Praman. So if there is Praman somewhere from the scripture, then I am open to the idea. Let me have that Praman.
Same thing I asked. There is no Praman. Why are you saying we will again fall back? Then they are giving examples like Jaya Vijaya.
Jaya Vijaya did not again fall down.
They are saying, and the other Brahman they are giving is like Krishna break his promise. He tried to break his promise to protect Arjuna.
But it was not about one being liberated. It was a different context.
Correct. But these people, they are actually.
Krishna can break butter pots here, and he can give butter to monkeys and things like that. Doesn't mean that he has to always do it. There are certain pastimes that are called as just contextual pastimes. Okay? Alright? Yeah. So we'll stop. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.